What do you get when a courtroom smells like nervous sweat? The judge swaps legal procedure for party games, and a teenage schoolgirl becomes the most dangerous person in the room. Meet Judge Theodore, Teddy Thompson, part philosopher, part wildcard, and wholly uninterested in bureaucracy. Known for solving disputes with goats, rock, paper, scissors, and more than one legally questionable tactic, he presides over a high-stakes corporate espionage case between two tech titans. Millions hang in the balance. Reputations are on the line. And then, she takes the stand. Mei Wong doesn't look like a threat. She's 16, drowning in an oversized blazer, and barely whispers when sworn in. But beneath the shy demeanor is a brilliant mind trained on logic, ethics, and algorithms sharper than the lawyers interrogating her. Stellar Tech calls her a genius. Photon Dynamics paints her as a pawn. Judge Thompson? He smells something much bigger, and decides to skip the formalities. Instead of cross-examination, he introduces a new courtroom technique: truth or lie. And from that moment on, the case unravels, layer by layer, until one thing becomes crystal clear: justice may wear robes, but this time, it's being served by a girl in borrowed shoes who's smarter than everyone else in the room. The Unorthodox Judge is a courtroom drama like no other, where truth bends, power buckles, and justice finds an unlikely champion. The Unorthodox Judge. The courtroom reeked of old paper and nervous sweat, a scent Judge Theodore Teddy Thompson found strangely comforting. He surveyed his domain, a peculiar blend of the hallowed and the haphazard. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows depicting Lady Justice, though Teddy had, years ago, surreptitiously replaced her scales with a set of antique brass knuckles. A framed portrait of his beagle, Barnaby, hung askew next to a solemn depiction of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. He believed a touch of levity was crucial, especially in cases as convoluted and, frankly, boring as the one currently before him. Corporate espionage. He suppressed a yawn. Two tech giants, Photon Dynamics and Stellar Tech, locked in a bitter feud over a supposedly stolen algorithm. Millions of dollars, armies of lawyers, and enough paperwork to wallpaper the Taj Mahal. It all boiled down to one thing: who could build a faster widget. But today, things might get interesting. Today, Mei Wong took the stand. A ripple of anticipation ran through the gallery as the courtroom doors creaked open. Heads swiveled. All eyes fixed on a slight figure who hesitated in the doorway. Mei Wong looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Her dark hair, usually meticulously braided, seemed a little disheveled. Her oversized glasses magnified eyes that darted nervously around the room, as if searching for an escape route. The drab gray suit, clearly borrowed, hung awkwardly on her petite frame. She looked utterly, irrevocably out of place. Teddy Thompson watched her approach the witness stand, his expression unreadable. He saw not a nervous schoolgirl, but a sharp, analytical mind hidden beneath a veil of shyness. He'd read her file, the astronomical IQ scores, the MIT scholarships, the uncanny ability to dissect complex algorithms with the precision of a surgeon. Stellar Tech claimed she was their secret weapon, the architect of the revolutionary algorithm that Photon Dynamics had allegedly stolen. Photon Dynamics painted her as a disgruntled former intern, motivated by revenge and ripe for manipulation. He didn't believe either of them. Mei was sworn in, her voice barely a whisper. The lead attorney for Photon Dynamics, a man named Harding with a face like a granite gargoyle, began his questioning. It was the usual dance, polite, probing, designed to establish doubt. Mei answered in clipped sentences, her gaze fixed on a point somewhere beyond Harding's left shoulder. She seemed to shrink further into herself with each question. Teddy Thompson leaned forward, a mischievous glint in his eye. He'd seen enough. This wasn't getting anywhere. This wasn't truth-seeking, it was slow-motion torture. Mr. Harding, he interrupted, his voice booming through the silent courtroom. With all due respect, I'm finding this process somewhat tedious. Harding sputtered, momentarily thrown off balance. Your Honor, I am merely attempting to establish the witness's credibility. Credibility is as credibility does, Mr. Harding. And frankly, at this rate, we'll be here until Barnaby learns to fly. Barnaby, His beagle definitely could not fly. A collective murmur rippled through the courtroom. Teddy Thompson was known for his unorthodox methods. He'd once brought a goat into the courtroom to settle a property dispute. Another time, he'd ordered the attorneys to settle a case over a game of rock, paper, scissors. He was a maverick, a loose cannon, a judge who cared more about justice than procedure. He turned his attention to Mei. "Ms. Wong," he said, his voice softening slightly. "I understand you're feeling a bit overwhelmed." Mei nodded, her eyes wide. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Tell you what," Teddy said, leaning back in his chair and steepling his fingers. "Let's try something a little different. Something more engaging." He paused for dramatic effect, letting the suspense hang in the air. The gallery was buzzing now, a low hum of anticipation and disbelief. Even Harding looked intrigued, albeit warily. "We're going to play a game," Teddy announced, a wide grin spreading across his face. "A little game I like to call Truth or Lie." A gasp escaped someone in the gallery. Harding spluttered again, a vein throbbing in his temple. Mei stared at Judge Thompson, her mouth slightly ajar. "Your Honor," Harding protested, "I must object. This is highly irregular. Completely unprecedented." "Precisely, Mr. Harding," Teddy replied, his eyes twinkling. "That's what makes it fun. Ms. Wong will make a statement. It could be about anything: the algorithm, her favorite ice cream flavor, the mating habits of the Bolivian tree frog. Then I'll ask her a few questions to determine whether she's telling the truth or, well, something less than the truth. Sound good, Ms. Wong?" Mei blinked, processing his words. "Truth or lie?" she repeated, her voice barely audible. "That's the ticket. Now, Ms. Wong, the floor is yours. Tell us something. Anything. But make it good." Teddy Thompson settled back in his chair, his gaze fixed on the nervous girl in the witness stand. He had a feeling this was about to get very interesting indeed. The room held its breath, waiting for Mei to break the silence. Truth and innocence. Judge Thompson leaned back, the aging leather of his chair sighing beneath him. He adjusted his glasses, the gilded rims flashing under the courtroom's fluorescent glare. "Ms. Wong," he began, his tone surprisingly mild given the severity of the industrial espionage case looming large. "We're going to engage in a little exercise, a game of truth or falsehood. I'll pose a question, and you simply declare whether your reply will be veracious or fabricated. Is that understood?" Mei Wong, perched on the stand like a fledgling alighting on a Gothic ornament, nodded, her diminutive hands clasped tight. An ill-fitting blazer, patently borrowed, overwhelmed her slight physique. A palpable tension filled the space, a silent thrum that resonated within the polished wood trim. Mr. Harding, the defendant's counsel, a predatory presence in a tailored suit, wore a smug expression that telegraphed his anticipation of victory. He likely viewed Mei as a sacrificial lamb, an unsophisticated girl in way over her head. "Excellent," Judge Thompson affirmed, his gaze unwavering. "Let's begin with the basics. For the record, state your name and whether your response will be truthful or a deception." Mei blinked, her obsidian eyes radiating innocence. "My name is Mei Wong," she offered, her voice a bare breath. "And my answer will be the truth." Harding chuckled, a dry, grating sound. "Very well," Judge Thompson responded unperturbed. "Ms. Wong, what school do you attend?" "Northwood High," she answered, a hint of resolve entering her tone. "The truth." "And your grade level?" 11th, she stated. "Truth." The interrogation continued in this vein for several minutes, a seemingly trivial pursuit of establishing commonplace facts. Her place of residence, her favorite subject, apparently mathematics, her lack of siblings. Each answer accompanied by the avowal of truth, each inflating Harding's self-satisfied grin. He scribbled intently on a legal pad, no doubt documenting her perceived artlessness. The air-conditioning whirred, its monotonous drone underscoring the apparent simplicity of the session. A distant siren pierced the air, a momentary intrusion of the city's turmoil into the orderly confines of the courtroom. Now, Ms. Wong, Judge Thompson announced, shifting tactics. Let us discuss stellar tech. Are you familiar with stellar tech? Mei hesitated, a slight frown marring her brow. It was the first glimpse of anything beyond naive candor. Yes, she said quietly. It's a technology firm. Truth. And what is Stellar Tech's business? Her gaze dropped to her hands, where she worried the blazer's fabric. They manufacture things? She stammered. Like computers and such. Truth. Harding nearly vibrated with barely contained exultation. He leaned in to whisper something to his assistant, a gesture heavy with condescension. Judge Thompson, however, remained inscrutable. Ms. Wong, are you aware that Stellar Tech alleges Mr. Harding's client purloined their proprietary secrets? Mei's eyes lifted, locking with Judge Thompson's. A subtle transformation occurred, a barely noticeable hardening of her resolve. Yes, she replied, her voice now firmer. The truth. And do you possess any knowledge pertaining to these stolen trade secrets? This time, the delay was longer, more pronounced. The silence grew, dense and suffocating. Mei's eyes flicked around the room, as if seeking egress. At last, she inhaled deeply. No, she declared. My answer is the truth. Harding emitted a triumphant huff. He reclined in his seat, arms crossed, his triumph seemingly assured. Your Honor, he intoned, his voice dripping with derision. I believe we've established that Ms. Wong has absolutely nothing of value to contribute. Perhaps we can dismiss her and proceed with more reliable witnesses? Judge Thompson steepled his fingers, his gaze riveted on Mei. Not so quickly, Mr. Harding, he countered, a hard edge sharpening his words. Ms. Wong, one final query. And this is of utmost importance. Are you completely certain that you have no information whatsoever regarding the misappropriated trade secrets? Mei stared directly at Judge Thompson, her expression a blank canvas. The room seemed to hold its breath, anticipating her response. The air conditioning's drone appeared amplified, a constant reminder of the tension that gripped the atmosphere. After an extended, agonizing pause, she finally spoke. Yes, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. My answer is a lie. Cracks in the facade. Judge Thompson tapped his pen, a hawk eyeing its prey. Miss Wong, he began, a playful note in his voice that belied the steely gleam in his eyes. Let's indulge in a little game. Truth or lie? I'll pose the questions, you provide the honest assessment. Comprehend? Mei, perched on the witness stand like a fledgling about to take flight, gave a slight nod. Her spectacles, threatening to slide off her nose, were adjusted with a nervous twitch of her hand. Yes, Your Honor. Very well. The prosecution asserts a clear chain of custody for Exhibit A, the USB drive. Truth or lie? Mei paused, head canted slightly, considering. Lie. A rustle swept the gallery, a collective intake of breath. Even Thompson seemed momentarily surprised. And your reasoning, Miss Wong? She straightened, a subtle armor of resolve settling upon her shoulders. While the prosecution established Mr. Davies' initial possession, the subsequent handover to Detective Miller rests solely on his unverified testimony. Absent is a proper audit trail, absent any digital attestation, absent corroborating validation beyond his bare assertion. Ergo, the chain, superficially complete, harbors a critical flaw, ripe for dispute. Defense counsel, Mr. Harding, a silverback of the legal jungle, jolted upright. A swift, anxious glance passed between him and his client, a wan figure drowning in his suit. The man's jaw worked, a silent grinding of teeth. Judge Thompson's eyebrows arched in amusement. A flaw, you say? A rather expansive term for one of your years. Mei offered a delicate, apologetic smile. I am an avid reader, Your Honor. Thompson chuckled, a deep, resonant sound that filled the chamber. Indeed. Let's try another tack. Does the data contained on the USB drive constitute proprietary trade secrets, legally shielded by the Uniform Trade Secrets Act? Truth or lie? Truth. came Mei's immediate reply. The Project Nightingale drone schematics, as presented, fulfill the criteria for legally protected trade secrets. They are demonstrably confidential, their non-public nature imbues them with distinct economic value, and reasonable safeguards were enacted to preserve their secrecy. Harding scribbled furiously, his brow a landscape of furrows. His client raked a hand through thinning hair, leaving it a disheveled mess. The air, heavy with anticipation, crackled with unspoken tension. Thompson leaned forward, his gaze a laser beam of scrutiny. Now, Miss Wong, let's dissect the alleged damages. The prosecution avows that dissemination of these trade secrets incurred significant financial losses for the aggrieved party. Truth or lie? Mei hesitated, her gaze flitting around the room, weighing unseen possibilities. Lie. Partially, at least. Elaborate, please. While the plaintiff's fiscal forecasts suggest a potential erosion of market share due to competing products leveraging similar technology, definitive proof linking these predictions directly to the defendant's conduct is lacking. The commercial landscape is turbulent. Extraneous variables, such as evolving consumer tastes and the advent of novel technologies, could readily explain these projected declines. The causal link, in legal parlance, is tenuous, leaning heavily on speculative conjecture rather than solid causative demonstration. A wave of astonishment cascaded through the gallery. Harding's pen slipped from his grasp, clattering against the polished table, the sound amplified in the sudden quiet. He stared, eyes wide with disbelief. This was no timid schoolgirl, but something altogether different. And what, Miss Wong? Thompson inquired, a note of genuine fascination now coloring his voice. Is your interpretation of the reasonable efforts mandate when safeguarding trade secret status? Mei took a deep breath, her voice gaining a newfound resonance. Reasonable efforts encompass a range of protective protocols, calibrated to the specific nature of the trade secret and the prevailing industry standards. These may include physical security protocols, such as restricted facility access, digital defenses, for example encryption and firewalls, and legally binding mechanisms, including non-disclosure agreements with employees and vendors. The suitability of these measures is assessed individually, factoring in the expense of implementation and the possible harm resulting from disclosure. Harding shoved back his chair, its legs screeching against the floor. He spoke urgently to his client in a hushed tone, the words swallowed by the rising murmur in the room. The defendant's face was bloodless. Judge Thompson smiled, a slow, considered expression. Quite insightful, Miss Wong. Quite insightful, indeed. I believe we have reached an appropriate juncture for a luncheon recess. We shall reconvene at 2 o'clock. He brought down his gavel, the sound sharp and final. As the courtroom emptied, Harding approached Mei, his face a rigid mask of civility. Miss Wong, he said, his voice strained and low. Perhaps you could indulge me for a moment. I have a few clarifying inquiries. Mei met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. I believe I have clarified matters quite sufficiently, Mr. Harding. A faint smile touched her lips, a chink in the veneer of innocence that sent a chill snaking down Harding's spine. Objection! Objection! The cry tore through the hush of the courtroom, an abrupt, ragged sound. Arthur Davies, Omnicorp's lead counsel, shot to his feet, his face a mask of outraged crimson. He'd been a study in barely controlled agitation for the past hour, watching Judge Thompson's increasingly bizarre line of questioning aimed at Mei Wong with mounting disbelief. Mei, seated on the stand, barely reacted. Her features remained an impassive tableau, her dark eyes locked on Davies with a spark of, was that wry amusement? Or perhaps compassion? Davies stabbed a rigid finger towards the elaborate lie detection device, a monument of polished steel and winking lights that had usurped the exhibit space. This mockery, this so-called truth or lie exercise, is plainly preposterous. It's legally untenable, scientifically suspect, and demonstrably prejudicial to my client. Judge Thompson reclined in his elevated chair, a slow, knowing smile curving his lips. Come now, Arthur, where's your sense of adventure? We're merely seeking clarity. Ms. Wong appears perfectly amenable to participating. Amenable? Davies nearly choked. She's an acutely intelligent individual being subjected to a carnival sideshow in a court of law. This isn't a county fair, Your Honor. This is a matter of corporate espionage involving millions. We're investigating allegations of theft, conspiracy, and violations of intellectual property, not playing truth or dare. He swung towards the jury, his voice gaining altitude. This apparatus, regardless of its purported function, is devoid of any basis in established legal practice. Its accuracy is dubious, its methods shrouded in secrecy. It's nothing more than a piece of stagecraft, designed to unfairly influence your judgment. Thompson's gavel crashed down, the sound reverberating through the room.